As a little boy, on his 14th birthday, he gets a horse. And everybody in the village says, how wonderful, the boy got a horse. And the Zen master says, we'll see. 2 years later, the boy falls off the horse, breaks his leg, and everybody in the village says, how terrible. And the Zen master says, we'll see. Then a war breaks out, and all the young men have to go off and fight, except the boy can't because his leg's all messed up. And everybody in the village says, how wonderful.
And the Zen master says, we'll see.
So you get it.
No, because I'm stupid.
You're not stupid. You're just in Congress.
Send him money.
You can start with the roads, move on to the schools, factories.
Gus, now it's a party.
Restock the sheep herds, give them jobs, give them hope.
I'm trying.
Yeah, well, try harder.
I'm fighting for every dollar.
Yeah.
Hey.
Listen to what I'm telling you.
My name's Alan Parrott. I was a Falconer for Arab political leaders for 20 years, and then I spent another 10 years in former Soviet territories doing conservation work and catching falcon smugglers.
In the falconry camps where I visited, there were always very nefarious characters coming and going, weapons merchants. Osama Bin Ladin for many years made annual pilgrimages to the Royal Falconry camps, both Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. The former Saudi ambassador, Prince Turki, went hunting with Bin Laden many times. The foreign minister of the Emirates hosted Bin Laden as a VIP guest in his falconry camp. Even after Bin Laden was an internationally wanted mass murderer.
How did this all start?
Well, the gestation, the beginning was in the 70s during the Church Commission when an alternate CIA was created called the Safari Club. And the Safari Club was financed by overseas allies. It was outsourced to foreign banks.
We have a particular obligation to examine the NSA in light of its tremendous potential for abuse. It has the capacity to monitor the private conversations of American citizens without the use of a bug or a tap. The interception of international communication signals sent through the air is the job of NSA, and thanks to modern technological developments, it does its job very well. The danger lies in the ability of the NSA to turn its awesome technology against domestic communication.
Osama bin Laden was one of the recipients of funding from this alternate CIA that was subverting the oversight control of the successor to the Church Commission, and that is the Senate Intelligence Committee. 1 week before bin Laden was killed, I was called down to the Senate Intelligence Committee to give statements and evidence. And I have quite a few tape recordings and of senior members who were aware of bin Laden's house arrest in Iran for 10 years following Tora Bora. This was arranged by John Brennan. This is why Gary Bernstein was not allowed to kill Osama bin Laden in Tora Bora when he was only a few hundred yards away, because the plans had been made and set in stone by John Brennan to extradite bin Laden from Tora Bora to Iran, where he remained under house arrest for 10 years with more than 100 al-Qaeda leaders and their families.
So what you're saying is that there was no need for us to invade Afghanistan under the pretext of getting al-Qaeda if the U.S. government knew and was actually protecting his life in Iran. Is that correct?
Well, I have to say it was rogue elements of the U.S. government controlled by John Brennan, Richard Clark, Vice President Biden, quite a few people. There's a long list of people. They started with good intentions. The Safari Club was begun to fight the expansion of the USSR, but it turned into a very distorted operation over the years. And Osama bin Laden was the figurehead manifestation of this alternate CIA. And so they had to protect him in their bad judgment. And you see, one lie leads to another. Our parents always taught us this. And so when my team, we planned a program to go in and get bin Laden in Iran. We were going to catch him when he was falconry hunting, because I spent 20 years living with Arab political leaders, training their falcons and going out in these camps, hunting with them. And then I noticed there were terrorists coming into these camps, and the Royal Falconry camps are Al-Qaeda's boardroom. This is where these bad guys come. There are no passport or border controls. We were going to go in and get bin Laden, but unfortunately, within minutes of ascending to the office of the CIA director, Leon Panetta's first act in office was to cancel the Rigor program, R-I-G-O-R, a covert CIA program to catch and kill Osama Bin Laden in Iran.
No one would have picked a 73-year-old affable former congressman as the one to track down Osama bin Laden. It was 12 years later that President-elect Obama made an odd request. Would Panetta lead the CIA? Panetta had never worked in intelligence, but it was his team that put a Navy SEAL in bin Laden's bedroom.
I have the utmost respect for Leon Panetta. I think that he is one of the finest public servants that we've had. He brings extraordinary management skills, great political savvy, a impeccable record of integrity. I think what you're also going to see is a team that is committed to breaking with some of the past practices and concerns that have, I think, tarnished the image of the agencies, the intelligence agencies, as well as U.S. foreign policy.
This summer, the president made Panetta Secretary of Defense, in charge of managing 3 million employees, fighting 3 wars, and stopping Iran from building an atom bomb.
How many countries are we currently engaged in a shooting war?
It's a good question. You
have to stop and count.
I'll have to stop and think about that because, obviously we're going after Al-Qaeda wherever they're at. And clearly we're confronting Al-Qaeda in Pakistan. We're confronting the nodes of Al-Qaeda in Yemen, in Somalia, in North Africa.
This was 6 months after Barack Obama was sworn in as president, and Leon Panetta threw a tantrum and canceled Rigor. This was reported by Goldman and Apuzzo, and slightly mischaracterized in the press as targeting Al-Qaeda leaders all over the world, but it was focused only on Iran and bin Laden. And so when we were shut down by Leon Panetta and others, I began negotiating directly with Iran 6 scenario analyses for the transfer of bin Laden alive and well to coalition forces. And Iran is on tape agreeing to this. It was all done. It took 3 years to develop this. I had meetings in the Iranian mission at the United Nations. Ambassador Mohammed Kazai organized everything. Bakhsarai was the handler. There were several handlers. Everything was ready. And then I went to Governor Bill Richardson, New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, on December 2nd and 3rd of 2010. He agreed to be the U.S. envoy to receive bin Laden for a transfer to coalition custody. And it turned out that bin Laden had already been moved to Abbottabad, Pakistan in August of 2010. He was transferred there because in the 6 scenario analyses that I discussed with Iran, by harboring Osama bin Laden and 100 Al-Qaeda leaders, this represents an act of war against the United States. Their nuclear facilities could be bombed and their economy obliterated. So the time moves backwards instead of forwards. And the Iranians didn't want to risk exposing their complicity with John Brennan and others to harbor. You see, John Brennan and Clinton and Biden outsourced the imprisonment of Al-Qaeda leaders to Iran. We think of outsourcing as being a commercial activity. They outsourced our military responsibilities to an untrustworthy adversary, Iran. And they did that to save Iran from retaliation for harboring terrorists. And so Iran had no choice in their estimation but to accept the offer of Clinton in lieu of my offer, which was transferred to a neutral zone, because that would have endangered their economy and their nuclear program.
And so Clinton actually knew about this, right? She knew that they were willing to just hand him over to us. So she knew that they were ready. Iran was ready to give us Bin Laden with no real struggle. And
Absolutely.
So she decided to have him move to Pakistan for a trophy kill.
One of Bin Laden's sons said his father was strangely resigned to dying in Abbottabad. So he was held there in a gilded cage, awaiting his trophy kill. He was moved from Mashhad, Iran, into Abbottabad airport, and then moved to this prison complex, the Abbottabad compound. It was not there to protect him. It was there to keep him there, awaiting his appointment with destiny. But the Iranians turned it into a fateful result because they pulled Bin Laden out at the last minute, at the 11th hour, after an Iranian agent, a double agent, a Pakistan ISI officer, provided the DNA evidence to the CIA station chief. They were convinced it was Bin Laden in Abbottabad, and they sent in SEAL Team 6. And Musharraf said he didn't know about the SEAL Team 6 coming in, but they had to let down the radar long enough for the helicopters to come in. And they only told Obama about the SEAL Team 6 kill mission after the radar was put back up and SEAL Team 6 could not go back into Afghanistan. It was then a one-way trip that could not be canceled. You see, we have a witness who witnessed Hillary and Panetta threatening Obama that if he didn't greenlight the Bin Laden kill mission, they would expose him in the press and he would never survive politically. And he actually was reluctant to authorize the kill mission. That's why they pulled him off the golf course only after the mission could not be canceled. And
A few days after getting the mission, they had their plan. And so began weeks of rehearsals on a full-size version of the compound built in North Carolina.
How many times did you assault it? How many times did you train on it?
A lot. Between when we got the mission and when we left for Afghanistan, we probably get 100 times.
So how unusual was this kind of training?
Yeah, very unusual. I've never had all the mock-ups. I've never rehearsed for something for 3 weeks.
One rehearsal had an audience. The nation's highest-ranking officer, Admiral Mike Mullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the head of Special Operations, Admiral Eric Olson, and observers from the White House.
One of the things that I liked after the fact was I remember Admiral Mullen coming by and talking to each one of us, and then Admiral Olson as well. And I thought that was cool. They walked by, shook each of our hands, and said, "Hey, are you guys ready? Can you guys pull this off?" And I'm pretty sure to a man, we all said yes, absolutely.
And so the agent provocateurs, the engineers of all of this were John Brennan, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. When they went in there trusting the Iranians had Bin Laden there waiting for them, SEAL Team 6, they killed Osama Bin Laden's double. If you read Cy Hirsch's book, he explains that they threw the body parts over the Hindu Kush mountains. They didn't even save them like they saved the sons of Saddam Hussein in a refrigerated tent, well preserved and with makeup, just to prove that the Wicked Witch was dead. They saved the sons of Saddam Hussein. But they did not save the corpse of Osama bin Laden because it was his double. And it could not handle the scrutiny of DNA testing. They learned that it was not bin Laden. And so they threw the body parts over the Hindu Kush mountains. And John Brennan said that the people on the ship were told to keep quiet about the burial at sea, but they all say that they never were told to keep quiet because there was no burial at sea. John Brennan took the lead and made the fake media announcements. He lied to the press when he explained this Muslim burial at sea. It's actually haram. It's forbidden to bury a Muslim at sea unless you must bury on land with the face facing Mecca. So Brennan, who's a Muslim, you'd think he'd know not to lie about something so obvious. He said it was a Muslim burial at sea. Nonsense.
Of the burial of Bin Laden's remains was done in strict conformance with Islamic precepts and practices. It was prepared in accordance with the Islamic requirements. We early on made provisions for that type of burial, and we wanted to make sure that it was going to be done, again, in strict conformance. So it was taken care of in the appropriate way. I'm not going to go into details about sort of the where, but that burial has taken place. It took place earlier today.
Today, at my direction, the United States launched a targeted operation against that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. A small team of Americans carried out the operation with extraordinary courage and capability. No Americans were harmed. They took care to avoid civilian casualties. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
So this big lie, Biden, Hillary, and Clinton worked this agreement with Iran. They trusted Iran to move bin Laden to Pakistan. He did. He was there. But then they trusted Iran to keep him there. They moved him out back to Iran. And then the communication from Iran to Obama was, hey, we got your neck in a noose. Give us all this money, $152 billion.
The Iran nuclear deal has been a major issue in this year's presidential election. Detractors blame Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration for caving to Iranian demands while receiving little in return. Now, revelations about U.S. payments to the Iranian government add a new wrinkle to those critiques.
$400 million in cash being flown in an airplane to Iran. I wonder where that money really goes, by the way, right? I wonder where it really goes. Well, it went to either in their pockets, which I actually think more so, or toward terrorism. Probably a combination of both.
We announced these payments in January, many months ago. There wasn't a secret. We announced them to all of you. Iran had pressed a claim before an international tribunal about them recovering money of theirs that we had frozen, that as a consequence of its working its way through the international tribunal, it was the assessment of our lawyers that we were now at a point where there was significant litigation risk and we could end up costing ourselves billions of dollars. It was their advice and suggestion that we settle.
Journal's Jay Solomon. He's also the author of the forthcoming book, The Iran Wars, Spy Games, Bank Battles, and the Secret Deals That Reshaped the Middle East. Jay, thanks for joining us. It's not every day that the Secretary of State and then the President come out and sort of challenge the newsiness of your story. At one point, the President called this part of manufactured outrage. I guess the central question here is, was this part of this pre-negotiated payment for the arms deal in the late 70s? What has your reporting shown that this might have been something closer to a ransom payment?
I mean, the difficult part of the story from the very beginning was the administration did announce back in January this $1.7 billion payment. But as far as the specifics, the mechanics, they've refused to answer, like, when did the money arrive? How was it spent? Was it sent in cash? Until through our reporting, we found out that actually this money was sent in pallets of cash on a plane secretly.
The communication from Iran to Obama was, hey, we got your neck in a noose. Give us all this money, $152 billion. $2 billion on an airplane pallet was paid out for the secrets I wish to reveal now and to...
Welcome back to The Lead. New outrage on Capitol Hill today after Obama administration officials briefed lawmakers about two other cash payments to Iran. Sources tell CNN that in addition to the previously reported $400 million in cash given in conjunction with U.S. hostages held in Iran being freed, including Washington Post journalist Jason Rezaian, two additional cash payments totaling $1.3 billion were made, as first reported by this morning's Wall Street Journal.
$400 million in cash being flown in an airplane to Iran. I wonder where that money really goes, by the way, right? I wonder where it really goes. Well, it went to either in their pockets, which I actually think more so, or toward terrorism? Probably a combination of both.
Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken acknowledged that no one can guarantee that none of the cash payment will end up funding Iran-backed terrorist groups.
We can't say that not one single dollar will go there. What we can say, based on what we've seen so far, is that virtually all of it is going into the economy, not into the military.
Critics say the transaction is tantamount to ransom, encouraging future hostage-taking, a charge the State Department denies. Rather, officials argue it was leverage to make sure the hostages were returned. The Treasury Department has said that the payments had to be made in cash, Swiss francs, euros, and other currencies.
Let me begin with sort of the broadest criticism that I see out there, some of which, I've made myself, which is that we had 6 world powers on one side of the table. We had Iran alone on the other side of the table. How come we weren't able to translate that leverage into not just eliminating Iran's ability to be a threshold nuclear power in a decade, but eliminating its nuclear enrichment infrastructure entirely? That seems to be the biggest criticism out there.
Yeah, and I think that criticism is missed. Given your past behavior, given our strong suspicion and evidence that you made attempts to weaponize your nuclear program, given the destabilizing activities that you've engaged in the region and support for terrorism, it's not enough for us to trust when you say that you are only creating a peaceful nuclear program. You have to prove it to us. So across the board, what we've been able to do is to assure that Iran will not get a nuclear weapon, and that was always the premise, Tom, of us building this strong international sanctions regime. The notion that the world signed up for these sanctions in order to either achieve regime change, to solve every problem in terms of Iranian behavior, or to say to them in perpetuity they can never have peaceful nuclear power. That was never something that was in the cards.
$152 billion, $2 billion on an airplane pallet was paid out for the secrets I wish to reveal now and to the president under the terms of misprision and treason. That is to say, this is a secret. These are secrets worth $152 billion paid by President Obama, and Vice President Biden paid with the blood of SEAL Team 6 when he had them killed. Blackmail and extortion. It would be my pleasure and my honor to bring this material to President Trump. There's a massive amount, terabytes, documents, video, audio. It's my only wish.
Afghan President Hamid Karzai said this morning 31 U.S. Special Forces and 7 Afghan soldiers were killed in one of the deadliest single attacks for American troops in nearly 10 years of war in Afghanistan. Afghan officials say a NATO Chinook helicopter crashed during an anti-Taliban mission overnight in a region west of Kabul. The Taliban says its fighters shot down the helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade. Sources tell CBS News the Chinook was carrying U.S. and Afghan forces in the Wardak region during an operation against a suspected Taliban compound that started shortly after midnight. The chopper was struck and crashed into the valley.
The death of those 22 Navy SEALs in Afghanistan over the weekend was a staggering loss of life for that Special Operations Unit. Joining us now is former SEAL Howard Wasden, author of SEAL Team 6 Memoirs of an Elite Navy SEAL Sniper. Good morning to you, Howard. And first of all, please tell me how you're doing. I know you said over the weekend you were just numb.
Yeah, good morning, Nancy. First of all, I'd like to say that my thoughts and prayers go out to all the family members of this elite force. And yeah, it's a staggering blow. We don't give out numbers because that gives out capability. I will say that it's a terrible loss, and how long you train to get there, you never quit training, Nancy. You train as a SEAL, and then once you get to this team, you continue training just like every other team. It's a never-ending process and a commitment that most people can't even comprehend.
This is a secret. These are secrets worth $152 billion paid by President Obama, and Vice President Biden paid with the blood of SEAL Team 6 when he had them killed. Blackmail and extortion.
So that means that SEAL Team 6 was shot down on purpose after the trophy kill to ensure that no dead man can tell no tales.
You were correct. So that President Obama paid bribery of $152 million. Vice President Biden paid with the blood of SEAL Team 6. He spent their blood like currency.
This gentleman came up to me.
Gus, you and 3 other guys.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you what I told Harold Holt. I can get the money. Now, the $10 million is a joke. Fine. What do you need?
To do what?
To shoot down the helicopters. To shoot down the helicopters. We can help them shoot down the goddamn helicopters. Everything's going to start going our way.
There was a story about a Zen master and a little boy. Yeah.
It's Stu.
And he was an Army Ranger that had been injured and he was recuperating in Hawaii. And he said, "How do you know Chief Petty Officer Woods?" And I says, "Well, I'm his dad." And he says, "Well, I worked with your son." And one of the things that he told me, he says, "I was on the Ranger team that was in that village where SEAL Team 6 was killed." The story was by the Biden-Obama administration that there was this team that was under attack in this village. We're going to die if you don't get someone here really quick. And so they loaded SEAL Team 6 on this slow, vintage Huey helicopter the size of a school bus and slowly got them to the village. Now, they did not request help. They've been in that village numerous times before. In fact, if someone came, it would actually endanger them. The story was not true. And then usually when a helicopter comes in, it goes zoom right down to the ground, opens up, all the troops go out in seconds, and then boom, the helicopter goes straight up. Well, this was a sitting target, okay, the size of a school bus. It hovered in the air over that village, just waiting to be shot down. And the people hot roped. I've never heard the word hot rope before. That means they each individually lowers down while it was a sitting target. And then apparently it was shot down by one of those weapons that Hillary Clinton illegally sent to Benghazi to give to a terrorist organization the U.S. government used to get rid of our ally who was fighting terrorism. That's Gaddafi.
They were Stinger missiles. Thousands upon thousands of them went missing. And Mark Turi was told that he had a small arms covert weapons program going. So that way none of that was ever given to someone because they could shoot down jetliners just flying by if they wanted to. A child could do it and a 12-year-old could do it. So these Stinger missiles went through Benghazi and then were given to the people who shot down SEAL Team 6. That was a setup. They were covering their tracks there. And then when they found the serial number on one of the missiles, it is traced back to the CIA from Qatar, from that weapons cache of Stinger missiles. That's why they had to then cover their tracks after people found out that the missiles were from Qatar, and then they could trace back where they came from Hillary through Benghazi. That's why Stevens was back there to recover those missiles and cover up the evidence. Well, that's at least what he was told. I assume that part of the plan for her was to eliminate everyone there at the Benghazi compound as well.
Our viewers, you've been very critical of her handling of Benghazi has actually incentivized her to run for president. I mean, do you think you're emboldening her by continuing with these investigations?
You know, Aaron, the truth isn't partisan. They're basic questions that haven't been answered, and she views it as criticism to ask what happened that night, why were we attacked by terrorists, why didn't we prevent it, why didn't we have assets in place to save those 4 Americans, and why did the administration tell the American people its story that was demonstrably false?
It's just so wicked. It's hard. It's just so unimaginably evil what these people do.
Dead men don't talk.
Well,
Alan,
we'll talk. We will talk. Yes, sir.
It's going to be released, audio tapes, documents.
I believe so. Yes. Well, let's just remember that heavy price has been paid for for the secrets we are uncovering. And there are millions of people who want to see the truth. And we're going to deliver.
Light me, Boone. All the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you.
Within me?
Within you.
I'm gonna think about that one.
Be here all night.
All right.
You know, I do have a gun in my cubby, and I will use it.
There's a little boy, on his 14th birthday, he gets a horse. And everybody in the village says, how wonderful, the boy got a horse. And the Zen master says, we'll see. 2 years later, the boy falls off the horse, breaks his leg, and everybody in the village says, how terrible. And the Zen master says, we'll see. Then a war breaks out, and all the young men have to go off and fight, except the boy can't because his leg's all messed up. And everybody in the village says, how wonderful.
Now, the Zen master says, we'll see.
So you get it.
No, because I'm stupid.
You're not stupid. You're just in Congress.
Send them money.
You can start with the roads, move on to the schools, factories.
Gus, now it's a party.
Restock the sheepherds. Give them jobs, give them hope.
I'm trying.
Yeah, well, try harder.
I'm fighting for every dollar.
Yeah. Hey. Listen to what I'm telling you.